Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a story that is escalating by the hour. It's a crisis that started with the death of one man in one city, and now it's threatening to shut down the entire U.S. government. So, why is this happening? Well, the answer is a crazy, high-stakes political standoff that's unfolding right now in Washington, D.C. And believe me, things are developing at an incredible pace. Okay, here's the bottom line. There's this massive funding bill called an appropriations bill, and it's completely stuck. We're talking about the money that funds everything from FEMA disaster relief to the U.S. Coast Guard, and it's all on hold because of a really bitter fight over the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and specifically one of its agencies, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. But what could DHS agents possibly have done to spark a national crisis this big? To understand that, we've got to rewind to what went down last weekend in Minneapolis. And things moved fast. I mean, look at this. On Saturday, a beloved local ICU nurse is killed. By Sunday, just one day later, the Senate Minority Leader says, nope, we're blocking the funding bill. And by Tuesday, you've got members of Congress publicly backtracking and apologizing for their votes because of the intense public pressure. The speed of this is just staggering. And that really helps explain why the reaction was just so explosive. You see, for a lot of critics, Pretti's death wasn't just some tragic, isolated incident. No, it was the breaking point, the final straw in what they see as a deeply disturbing pattern of behavior from federal agents. 32. That's the number of people who died in ICE custody last year alone. And that number, it's become a rallying cry. It's really put a harsh spotlight on the conditions and the treatment inside the agency's detention centers. And behind that number are real people with absolutely devastating stories that have really grabbed the public's attention. Stories like Geraldo Lunis Campos, whose death was officially ruled a homicide, or Liam Conejo Ramos, who was just a 5-year-old child held in detention, and Wayal Tarabishi, who died from a rare disease only 30 days after his father, his caregiver, was detained. And you know, the public outcry isn't just about the deaths in custody. Reports have been coming out about other really concerning actions, like the recent case of a 5-year-old American citizen who was reportedly deported to Honduras, a country she'd never even seen, and was allegedly denied any access to a lawyer. Then you have this quote, which really reveals a strategy from a key administration official. This is Tom Homan, the former border czar, and he went on Fox News and openly talked about his plan to create a database to, in his words, make famous people who were arrested at protests. And now recent reports are suggesting this plan might actually be happening. So you can see why everyone's so confused. On one hand, DHS is officially saying there is no database of domestic terrorists run by us. Flat-out denial. But then, on the other hand, there's literally video of a federal agent in Maine telling a protester the exact opposite thing. It's creating this huge credibility gap. And this whole thing, it didn't just stay in the U.S. It spilled over the borders pretty quickly and started creating some serious international incidents. The first big international flashpoint happened right back where it all started, in Minneapolis. A federal agent was actually caught on camera trying to illegally force his way into the Ecuadorian consulate. You know, under international law, that's considered foreign soil. So, as you can imagine, Ecuador has already filed an official diplomatic protest. And then the anger went global. It was announced that ICE agents would be part of the security detail for the upcoming Olympic Games in Milan, Italy. Well, the mayor of Milan, Giuseppe Sala, he did not mince words. He shot back with this sharp rebuke, calling ICE a militia that kills, and basically saying they are not welcome in his city. So, you've got this crisis just spiraling out of control, both at home and abroad. And the administration's response? Well, it's been described as chaotic, to say the least, with a whole lot of internal finger-pointing. Yeah, instead of a clear, unified message, what we're seeing is a blame game playing out in public. Sources are saying that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's camp is pointing the finger at White House advisor Stephen Miller for pushing a false narrative. But then Miller's team turns around and blames the federal agents who were actually on the scene. And stuck right in the middle, Secretary Noem releases this statement that pretty much says she was just following orders from the president and Miller. President Trump, however, has been anything but quiet. He's made his position crystal clear. During a speech in Iowa, he really escalated his language, calling those arrested in Minnesota hardened, vicious, horrible criminals. And as you'd expect, the response from political opponents has been just as forceful. Minnesota's own Representative Ilhan Omar is now leading a charge for some pretty drastic measures, not just for Secretary Noem's resignation or impeachment, but for getting rid of ICE as an agency altogether. Former President Joe Biden also weighed in, and he framed the whole situation differently. He didn't see it as just a policy argument, but as something that goes against core American values. He condemned the violence and basically said this looks like the government targeting its own people. So when you put it all together, this crisis, which, remember, started with a single death in Minneapolis, has now forced a national debate on one of the oldest and toughest questions a democracy can face. There are no easy answers here, and it's a question the entire country is now being forced to grapple with.